So one of the biggest things I see amongst my clients and in the community is this repeating cycle of comparison that you guys allow yourself to get into. I used to be so stuck and riddled with looking at what everyone else in my industry was doing. I would spend my life in a social media vortex thinking, oh my God, why has she got this? How's she done this? She does the same as me as this, or I'm not as qualified as her, or I don't look as good as her. And I see it amongst so many of you guys, and it absolutely kills me because it's so often the reason why we don't do anything is that we are constantly comparing our worthiness and our level of competency to other people's, and quite often we'll get so bogged up in it that we don't even realize we're doing it, and it takes up far too much of our time. And for me, the truth is in all of this is that the person who is comparing yourself to others is not you. It's not your truest self. It's not your higher self. It is your inner critic. It is that little self-sabotager and that ego inside of you that wants you to compete with the rest of the world. She is the person that thinks that we are what we have. She is the person that forces us to judge others. She is the person that makes us get upset when things don't go our way. And she is the one that believes we are separate from others. She believes that we are our accolades, that we are our achievements, our social media likes, our social media followers, and she wants you to constantly acquire evidence for your worthiness in this world, and she thinks that you're in competition with the rest of the world. That is who your inner critic is, your inner bitch, your little witch, whoever you want to call her, your ego. It's not you. And so when I see people comparing themselves to others, I'm like, yeah, but honey, they're not you. People will always relate to your own work, and when you find yourself in that vortex of comparing yourself to others and looking at how many likes they got, or how many people viewed their life story compared to yours, or how quickly they've grown and you haven't, or how they've managed to achieve everything in their life that you haven't, or how they've got that fabulous guy, marriage, husband, and you haven't. When you look at the bigger picture and you really start looking at what you have in your life, things can change. And everything changed for me when I dropped the need to compare, when I completely implemented these steps. So my top steps for overcoming the need to compare, or when you're in that like comparative, repetitive cycle, is the first one is realize it's not you. So what I just said to you there about your inner critic is honestly the most truth you're ever going to hear about comparing yourself to others. It is not you. And the moment you can kind of bring awareness to that is the moment it really changes. So if I find myself comparing myself to someone, I kind of like check in with myself and I call myself out and I'm like, dude, that's not you. That's your inner bitch. Thank you. I know you're trying to protect me. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but that's not the truth. And that is the role of our inner critic. That is the role of our ego. It is to keep us safe in our comfort zones, in the role we know how to play and the one we know the typical outcome of. And we don't want to stay in comfort zones, do we? No. So the first thing I always do is actually check in with myself and go, no, that's not me, Becky. Becky doesn't do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and I know I harp on about this quite a lot, but the second thing is to be so driven by your purpose. You don't care what anyone else is doing. You don't have literally the time to become insecure about what everyone else is doing. For me, when I got really clear about how I want to help people, and I became so committed to helping women believe in their worth, believe that they were capable of launching that business that they wanted to launch, or stepping out into their light, I all of a sudden dropped the need and the worry of how I measured up to everyone else. When I was working in a more surface level mindset and I was working to like, oh, how many likes did I get? And like, what was everyone thinking about me? And did I look good enough and lean enough and pretty enough? Like, that's what I used to care about in my Instagram posts. That was when I found myself comparing up to everyone else's judgment. But the moment I became so driven by my passion and my mission was the moment it removed all my insecurities. My mission became more important than my insecurities. It literally becomes irrelevant what other people are doing when you are so focused on how you're going to make a change. I promise you. The next thing is stay in your own lane. Now, what does this mean? Now, I'll never ever forget, I was literally in an email conversation with Gabby Bernstein and she signed it off saying, listen, stay in your own lane, honey. And for ages, I couldn't understand what she meant by that. And, you know, I have got to a place in my life right now where I've really realized that We are all going at our own timescale, on our own journey, and what is meant for us will unfold for us. So we just have to stay in the lane we're in and know that everything is unfolding for us as it's meant to, when it is meant to. And when we can really sit in that element of trust and knowing that if our time to shine is going to happen, it will happen. If it's meant to happen, it will. If we stop worrying about all the negativity and just sit back and trust and let it go and trust that it's going to go where you want it to go, then we allow for that to happen, and we can really sit in our own timescale on our own journey and truly know that that is our pathway. The next point, and as cliche as it sounds, it is so true, is get grateful. Count your own blessings. Quite often when we're looking at what everyone else is doing, we're wondering about or worrying about how successful they are and what good things they have. We don't see the bad stuff because they're not showing the bad stuff. We're only seeing the good stuff. And guess what? There'll be people looking at you who only see your good stuff and don't see your bad stuff. And so my biggest thing for this is, like, honestly, count your blessings. Look at the things in the life for you, in your life, that are going well. What is great in your life? Where do you have huge success? Where do you feel very passionate? Where are you enjoying yourself? You know, people always say to me, oh yeah, well, you might not have the husband and the baby, but Becky, you've got an amazing business, and I'm so jealous of how, like, driven you are and how you just know who you are. That's what some of my friends say who have the life that I look at sometimes, and I'm like, I wish I had a baby and a husband and loads of kids running around. Like, I'd love to have that. And they're like, yeah, it's great, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But I also look at your life and think, well, I'd also love to know who I am and what I'm giving and how I'm helping people. So yeah, it's really, really important to get grateful about the things in your life that are blessings that you've got going on good, so that you can allow more good to come into your life. And it really helps you drop the need to look at what other people are doing and what is going on well for them, which then moves me into my final point. And for me, this is one of my favorite points. When you can become inspired by other people instead of comparing yourself to them, everything changes. And knowing that there is enough room for all of us changes everything. Just because someone has got this many followers doesn't mean you can't. Just because someone is making this many sales in their business doesn't mean you can't. Just because someone is really happy and lit up and motivated, inspired and confident doesn't mean that you aren't able to have that too. So the key for being able to overcome this need to compare is our ability to be inspired by others and look at how amazing they are and also hype them up. When you're feeling triggered by someone, reach out and say, like, my God, that's amazing. You do such incredible work. The more you celebrate what other great things people have going on for them in their lives, the more you give off this energy of love and happiness and excitement, and you put yourself in that energetic frequency, in that vibe that's going to call in more good for you, because you're in that space. There is enough for all of us in this world, and just because something amazing is happening to someone else doesn't mean that it can't happen for you too. So be other people's hype girls. When I found myself supporting other people, spreading the love, sharing other people's work, telling them how amazing they were, I felt like it all came back to me. So yeah, they are my 5 steps for overcoming comparison. And just know that nobody is you. Nobody will ever be with you. And those who resonate with you and want to gravitate towards you will. Your authenticity is key.